Welcome to the Dreamboat. Remember, you can join the DRI for just £30 a year. You get access to more content, including videos and discounts for our events. It's a great way of finding out more about our work, joining our dream community, and supporting this podcast. Details in the show notes and at driccpe.org.uk/membership. Welcome to the Dreamboat podcast, a place where we talk about everything dreamy, all you wanted to know about dreams and where you might find some answers. My name is Dave Billington, and I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm also director of the Dream Research Institute. And I'm joined by fellow psychotherapist Laura Payne.
Hello, I'm Laura Payne, and I'm also part of the Dream Research Institute. And we're called the Dreamboat because we are recording our podcast overlooking the beautiful canal barges here at Little Venice in London.
We'll be looking at dreams, talking to guest experts, and answering your questions.
Now, let's get on with the episode.
Well, it's the last episode of this series, and as ever, we're going to end by answering some of your questions. Do keep the questions coming. They really make us think and they make us reflect on this work.
Yeah, generally, thank you for your feedback and your questions. We enjoy reading them, especially as they concern material and thoughts that we all have about our dream states. We love them. It makes us stop and chat and bounce ideas off other people as well. So it's a rich and fertile ground. In fact, I also can't believe that this is the end of series 4. And again, another series which has been full of interesting interviews and ideas. Hey, Dave.
That's right. Yeah. So this is 40-ish episodes, depending how you count them. It's gone by quickly, actually.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who's taken part in this series, and thanks to James Eade, our sound man, who makes this pig ear sound like something quite interesting.
Yeah, he makes it all work somehow. So let's just jump in with the questions that we have, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a question from George. He says, what does it mean when I hear music in a dream? I don't play an instrument, but I like music of all genres, and I wondered if any particular music had any significance. It feels like there's 2 or 3 questions wrapped up in one there, George. We'll have a go at it. What are your initial thoughts then, Laura?
Oh, I love it. I don't know if you do this, but I have often woken up having heard music and hear myself humming it. And obviously, depending on what it is, but very often if it's music that I've been left with, humming it and feeling cheerful. It's almost as if, you're waking up happy. There's something about music in dreams for me, and it comes in many shapes and sizes. I think for me, a lot of it's linked with memory. In the way that smell is linked with memory. There are triggers, and there's something about music and memory which I think is very powerful. And again, is another way of the psyche saying, hello, you like this piece of music, or hello, this piece of music represents X, Y, and Z, and might remind you of a time that you're not unhappy about. So it obviously goes both ways.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think what you're getting to the core of there is that music connects us to feeling. And anybody who's been listening knows that when we talk about dreams, we're always inquiring about the feeling that's at the core of it, or the feeling that is the initiation of a particular dream. And music is wonderful for really getting us in touch with feelings, in addition to memory, not instead of, but really connecting us to time and place and that felt experience that maybe when we first heard the song or what it has come to represent for us. So many songs are evoking a particular feeling. And George was asking about, does any particular music have any significance? And lots of popular music, it's about love, or it's about loss, and kind of some of those kind of core emotions that come up around relating to others, has such an impact in our adolescence. Those music that starts to define us, or songs that start to represent particular eras or moments in life. But I think it's about your relationship. Just like when we talk about any images that come up, it's about your relationship to that type of music or that particular song.
Mm. Yeah. What would you make of classical music, Dave?
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, I happen to like some classical music. I like quite a lot of classical music, but there's some things that I would maybe find a little bit dull, or would represent things that were in a narrow repertoire of kind of acceptable music that was around when I was a child, maybe, for example.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've listened to Tchaikovsky at Christmas. Right? In Nutcracker Suite, I probably know every note of that in some part of the back of my brain. But so there's particular associations with that, but I don't necessarily find it that interesting either. So for anyone, it'd be what does that kind of music? How do you relate to it? What is the emotional expression that's coming through? And I know from my own experience that quite often, if there is a piece of music that's coming up in a dream, it's what I most associate with that is a sense of overwhelming feeling that builds and builds as the music builds and builds, and it can be often something that gets to the point of intensity where it actually wakes me up, and then I'm left with both an emotional experience and either the music in my head. Sometimes I don't actually remember this precise music, but it's the sense of the music that was not just in my head either, in my whole being at that time.
Yeah, that's exactly what composers say, don't they? That often a lot of composers know that they've heard the music in a dream, and they just wake up with a sense of it in their being, particularly composing multi-level orchestral pieces, that to hold all of that sound of the different instruments actually in your head. A, how remarkable, but B, that it is something that is truly embodied. And I'm wondering about music in dreams being part of a very similar process of embodiment in some way.
Yeah, yeah. I think the beauty of music, to me, it's a little bit like the beauty of all dreams and dream work, which is that it's a way of relating to those subtle aspects of ourselves, those subtle parts of ourselves that don't have to go through the kind of cognitive filter. They don't have to be put into words. They don't have to become rational. They don't have to become logical. It's like that direct experience. And I think there's a real value to that, particularly because in the waking world, and particularly in the kind of the developed Western world, post-enlightenment, whatever frame you want to put on it, we're heavily oriented towards the cognitive and towards the active. And so there's maybe this balancing out in the psyche that comes from having a direct experience of something. And so lovely to have music. I mean, of course, there's lots of music that's lyrical, and there are specific words, and they might mean something. But we're talking about classical music and lots of other genres of music as well, where it is something that doesn't have words to it, and it is just a direct expression of an inner experience. And that's what dreams are too, I think.
Beautiful. Yeah, and also a direct experience of an inner emotion, emotion that piece of music represents for oneself internally. Yeah. Whether it's a piece that you know of, or even if it's a piece that somehow or other your psyche has saved up for you in some way.
You were talking about the composer being able to hear all the instruments and all of that. And I remember a particular dream that I had when I was in my early 20s, I think, and I was playing a lot of acoustic guitar at the time. And I woke up with a particular little riff or theme in my head, and I sort of picked up a guitar and played it, and maybe there was something there. I'm not any kind of musician really. I was just a dabbler. But I loved that experience of it seeming to come literally out of nowhere, and then something you could bring directly into the real world by playing it on an instrument. On a completely different level, there's that story of Paul McCartney. Was it yesterday that he?
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing. We talked about it, didn't we, in the first series when we talked about famous dreams?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the Stones songs as well. I can't remember which one it was
right.
now.
Yes.
Yeah, that came out of a dream. They woke up singing it or humming it.
No, it was Keith Richards who had the riff for Satisfaction. And because he used to sleep with like a voice activated recorder and his guitar. Say sleep, he was probably high actually, but yeah, he woke up with no memory of it, unsurprising, with Keith Richards, and he'd recorded I think not only the riff but kind of the structure of the song. So it can happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know, George, you said quite rightly, and you pointed out that you don't play any musical instruments, but again, the music you're hearing, I think what I would say is, as we do with symbols, what do you associate with that music? Does it have a memory attached? What are the emotions that come up for you when you hear that music? And I think the beauty of it is if you can remember the chords or the song or the tune or whatever it is, you can go away and find it and sit with it and replay it when you are awake, just to sort of touch in with whatever it is representing for you.
Yeah. If I can just put some grander ideas around that as well, what crosses my mind is the music of the spheres, which is the idea. I can't actually remember what century it is that it comes from. I want to say 16th or 17th century, but I'm not entirely sure. But this idea that there's harmony in the celestial world and among the planets, and that harmony is also expressed through music. And I think there's again, to me, that relates to a feeling of waking up with maybe specific music, or maybe just a sense of there being music, and it being something that is kind of celestial, something that is about taking you to that subtler part of yourself, taking you to maybe a higher part of yourself. And it's not about a tawdry love song. It's about something that is grand and that takes you beyond the limited sense of self. And what a wonderful experience that is. And that is, again, something that's really hard to put into words and hard to put into a direct narrative. But it is one of the experiences that is available to us in our dream life.
Thank you, Dave. That's really beautifully put. Thank you. I think it's probably, all puns intended, a good note to end that question. But no, it's very beautiful.
Nicely
thank you. So, and George, thank you. Thank you, George. Great question. And let's all go and see if we can have a musical dream tonight. So the next question we've got came from Jenny. And I think we're going to go into agony aunt mode here, I think, Dave, aren't we, with this question? Because, yes, it's something that does come up quite a lot. And the question is, why do I keep dreaming about my ex?
Yes.
Good question, Jenny. Good question.
Yeah.
Maybe it was you, Dave.
Well, the short answer is unfinished business. One of my initial takes on it anyway. But as ever, I think the questions that need to come up around this are, what are these dreams? What is the relationship that's being expressed in these dreams? What are the feelings? What are the emotions that are coming about in these dreams? And that can lead you into understanding a bit more about what is going on. Now, my way of looking at it, for better or worse, whatever the relationship might have been, an ex is somebody that was close to you and was important to you in some way. And in any relationship, we are always projecting something on it. If I can use the psychological term, there's something of ourselves that we see in another person and we relate to through another person. And just because you break up for whatever reason, it doesn't mean that isn't still happening. Maybe that person still, in that way, kind of holds a certain dramatic or metaphorical value. And so as with all dreams, in some ways, it points you back to yourself. What is it that this person is holding for you? What part of yourself is expressed through the image of this person? That's one way of looking at it. What are your thoughts on that, Laura?
No, I like it a lot. I was going to say something very similar, but in many ways, like a lot of times we say that, who does this person represent for you?
Yeah.
Actually, not who were they in your life, but what did they represent? And what were you expecting of them? Or what were you, as you quite rightly said, projecting onto them? What bit of you were you not wanting to hold or look at, that you're asking them to do the dirty work, even though they're not in your life anymore? What bit do you need to take back for yourself that you're projecting onto them?
It goes both ways, though, I would say, if I can interject, sorry.
Yeah.
Which is that, I'm very familiar from some of my clients of, dreaming about exes who, were abusive or narcissistic or whatever else it might be, and that person appearing in a very evil form, and sometimes literally as a devil almost. But it's also quite often we idealize people. And so we're getting them to hold something of ourselves that we can't see in ourselves. And I think that's even more important to take back.
Yeah, if it's an opposite, there's something we don't like about them that we keep. What bit of that is something of ourselves that we don't want to recognize, or we do want to recognize, but we don't know how to handle it. So it's easy to allow them to handle it in the dream. That's another way of looking at it. As well as it being just unfinished business. Sometimes, it could be, an ex from, teenage life, and you're in the later life. Well, it's back to the idealized part that you perhaps said, Dave. What were they for you? What did they represent for you? I think is often a good way of approaching anybody who comes up in a dream.
Yeah.
And did you like them? I mean, that's the other thing. Sometimes something might be happening in your life currently, and you're dealing with somebody who, you're dreaming of somebody who was in your life, like 20, 30 years ago. Why? What is it about this time that you're bringing them back in? What's actually happening in your life in the real world rather than in the dream state, that you need to go back and have a look at? That this person might hold a quality that you are looking for in yourself.
So it seems like we've got kind of two answers so far to that anyway. So it's sort of why this person and why now. Right? And you put those together, and I think there's maybe something really relevant there. I was thinking about, maybe there's an aspect of Freudian wish fulfillment kind of thing. So if you're in a relationship now that's not satisfactory in some way, then maybe, this person, that the ex represented something that was more satisfactory. So you're maybe missing that. And so it's kind of your psyche is then alerting you to maybe what you don't want to see in waking life, but there's something missing that actually you need or that you would respond well to. And of course, it can be in the negative sense as well, that it can be the sign of, this ex, this relationship that went terribly. Well, actually, you're in it again, and here's a little reminder. I've certainly seen that with clients. They go, I dreamt about it, and it just reminded me of this other relationship I'm in. Not necessarily a romantic relationship, because it can be that the ex has certain qualities that's you're now seeing expressed in a boss or a colleague or something like that. And it's like, Oh, okay. Yes, I do know what that's like, even though I don't really want to
Yeah.
see it in my waking life.
Yeah, I've had that come up a lot for clients where they have dreamt about it and it hasn't related to the partnership that they're in. But as you say, another relationship within their life, like a boss or whatever. And so it's interesting. It's rich with material because obviously an X has there's a lot of emotional
Yeah,
context in who that ex is, what they represented for you, what the unfinished business was. Actually, joking apart, were you left feeling whatever, unhappy, guilty, failed? There are so many emotions around an ending, a significant ending, that are often haven't been dealt with and keep coming back
absolutely.
round. And that, dreaming of that person again, the psyche's probably is could also be saying, really need to nail this
Yeah,
now. You need to nail this sense of failure or this sense of sadness or this sense of loss and longing, which I think a lot of us can get stuck in the whole what I call the cycle of loss and
yeah,
longing.
yeah, definitely. It's sort of hard to systematize these things, but free association can be a really useful tool for looking at your own dreams in this way of just saying, okay, well, here's this person. They've come up in the dream. Think of 10 qualities they have, positive, negative, whatever it is, and then look at those qualities, look at those associations, and say, where is that in my life now? Is that something that's present or something that's missing for each of those qualities? And then for each of those responses, a quality, and is it in my life or not? How is that? Is that something I'm looking for, something I miss, or is it something I would rather not have in my life right now? And
Yeah.
then look at the whole picture and say, how is this relevant to what's happening for me right now? And that's just a pretty simple exercise you can do to kind of look at, again, why this person? Why now?
Yeah, exactly. I really like that. It reminds me of an exercise I would do when I was working with couples or individuals in a sort of romantic sort of feeling romantically. It's what the relationship has become problematic, and I would often say, what was it that you first fell in love with? What were the initial projections for all intents and purposes? What were you asking them to hold? Because in many ways, I think being in love is a series of projections. And then you wake up, all puns intended, on a Dreamboat podcast and see the real person. And that's when the work actually does begin. But with that ex, what positive things, when you first fell in love with that person, what was it that you fell in love with? Because that will tell you a lot about what's either missing in your life or you're wanting back in some way. Would be a take for me based on what you've just said.
Yeah.
It's a very common question. Can I
Hmm.
just say that? It's one that we probably get asked more than anything else. Why do I dream about that ex? And we joke that it's about, it feels a bit like an agony aunt piece, but actually it's deeply, deeply significant. And it's not, I know we're having a bit of a banter and a joke about it, but actually it is quite serious. These people pop back up in our life, possibly because we do still love them in some way. And there's something that they represent that we want to keep in our life or we want to get rid of. And I think it can go both ways.
Definitely. Definitely. This question came up a lot in the pandemic as well. And if you look online, you'll see that every magazine and newspaper seemed to have this coming up. Partly it was because people were just dreaming more because they didn't have to rush around and get out of bed and get out of the house. But I think also in response to feeling isolated and being reflective and really being focused on what is life all about when it becomes really limited? What's really important? And I think you start to look at these deeper questions.
So as we're coming to the end now of the 4th series, thanks very much indeed for everyone who's, as I said earlier on, who've sent in wonderful questions. It seems a good way to end on this particular one, dreaming of one's ex. So for now, we're going to take a break before the start of the next season. So we could give everyone a chance to catch up on the past 4 series. 4 series, Dave. Wow.
Yeah, 40 episodes.
And we look forward to hearing from you all and what you'd like to hear about more, and any other particular topics that have been your favourites, actually. We'd like to know what you're get in touch with us. Tell us what you've enjoyed. Tell us what you don't enjoy, so that we can have a look at the format for season 5.
Yeah. And send dreams that you'd like to have discussed in our Dream of the Week section. And if you think you'd like to be a guest and talk about a dream for our Dream Labs as well, please do keep sending in dreams. And we do appreciate them. We don't have the opportunity to talk about all of them, of course, but they are all very welcome.
Yeah.
So as Laura was saying, it's a little bit of a break, but we will be back. And thank you very much for listening thus far.
Yeah, thank you very much. So whatever your dreams are, I hope they are sweet.
And whether or not you're listening to the podcast every second week, keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams.
So thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Don't forget to like us and leave comments on your favourite podcast platform. As I'm sure you know, that's the way we build an audience for the Dreamboat podcast, and also to spread news about dreaming. And as we said, there are many ways you can share your dreams at the DRI, the Dream Research Institute.
Yes, we have courses, events, and workshops, and we want to hear from you. So check out the show notes for links, or find us on Instagram and on our Facebook page and on our website at driccpe.org.uk. And if you want to explore your dreams further, or you would like to support us, you can join the DRI as a member for just £30 a year. As a member, you will get discounts for all of our events and short courses. You'll get our newsletter with latest dream research news, and we'll also be adding other special member benefits during the year. Of course, members' dreams will always be given preference for reading on the podcast Dream of the Week slot. So go to the link on the show notes and become a DRI member today. Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams.